everyone should have 2 cards, please. Does everyone have them? Yes? Okay, so the point of this is to try and match yours with someone else. You need to walk around the room and try to find who is the exact same as you. And because I made them myself, they're not going to be perfectly the same, but if they're similar, then they match. And then put them together and try to organize them on lab station number 6. So, go. Wait. Hey, I matched with you. Hey, you look like me. What? Are you talking to me? What? Oh, wait. Orange circle. Orange circle. No, I didn't both. I found a orange circle. I'll make it happen. I need to. Oh, you have the same circle. Wait, who has that for this? Hey, where do we go? You've already do. Okay, cool. Over there on the
Who has this thing?
She has that. Yeah. Okay,
Oh, we matched like certain ones? Oh, I thought it was like the exact same pair.
Yeah, when you're done, sit back down.
Right here. Hello?
Do you have a black candle?
Yeah.
Okay, I feel better now.
What does that mean?
I'm not mutated. If you're done, you can sit back down.
Oh.
My bear. She's the mutated one. You're the mutated chromosome. How do you make sense? Oh, wait. Okay, yeah, I'm not. His list still doesn't miss one. Okay, you can just place it. Where'd it go? Okay, that's cool. Whatever. I'll use this one. Okay, is everyone done? Yes? Yeah, I should probably. Okay, so the reason we played that game was to try to simulate Down syndrome and how there's supposed to be an extra chromosome. So Down syndrome is also called trisomy 21 because it's when you get an extra 21st chromosome. So that was demonstrating how random it is because you just come together and all the chromosomes come together. And that's part of the reason that it's so unknown. They don't know why it happens. It just occurs. And so as you can see in the photo, the 21st chromosome, there's an extra copy of it. And so during reproduction, when a sperm cell and an egg cell come together for some reason, there happens to be an extra chromosome in the child, and so this causes Down syndrome. And so this is a photo of DNA, and obviously DNA is made up of genes, and genes are in your chromosome. So when you look at Down syndrome, the really big thing is that it affects everything because all of your DNA is messed up. And so when your DNA is messed up, as we know from what we learned, that your RNA is messed up. And so their protein shape is different than normal people's, which is why they have all these problems. And so one of the things that I think we need to really be aware of is that it can affect any person in any race. And so the only thing that really affects it is your age. So as you get older, you have a higher chance of having a kid of Down syndrome. So the chart here, okay, I can't really point, but the chart, not the graph, shows that over the years, this one, there you go. Over the years, the amount of Down syndrome has increased. And this is because of the fact that women are starting to go to college and wait longer to have children. So as you get older, in the graph, the older you get, the higher chances of your child having Down syndrome. And so as society has changed, we've decided to wait longer to have kids, so the amount of Down syndrome has significantly rose. And so one of the main features you'll see is a lot of the kids with Down syndrome have different facial structures. So instead of having the normal face, they have their nose tends to be more, like, how do you say it, step up, like this direction, go like this, that's how it is. And one of the hardest things for a Down syndrome patient is the fact that they do look different from the rest, because one of the people, my neighbor, her son is Down syndrome, and so I talked to him while doing my project, And he said one of the hardest things is that people can tell you're different, not just because of the fact that they have issues with school because you can be mentally retarded, but also the fact that just you look different, so you stick out from the rest of the crowd. And so not only is there features on the outside that are different, there's features on the inside, and all this happens because of proteins. Proteins affect everything, and so they tend to have a flattened face and nose, and so their faces are constructed differently. And because this happens because the protein shape is different because of the extra chromosome, and that causes the phenotype to look different because the genotype is messed up. And so when you see a baby, you can look at the creases on your hands. Okay, I have like paper all over mine. But you know how normally you have the normal creases, and they're a little different but similar? A Down syndrome child normally has an extra crease, so a doctor can look at the hands of the baby, and that's one of the determining factors. And another thing is when you look at your feet, normally there's a really big gap between the big toe and the next toe right here, so you'll have a big gap. And so that's some of the determining factors that doctors will look at. And also before a child is actually born, you can take a fetal anatomy test where they can predict the chances of your child being born with Down syndrome. And if the chances are extremely high, then it's up to the parents whether they want to keep the child or get an abortion. Because if you have a really high chance, then the chance of your kid surviving past the age of 30 is only 50%. Because a lot of kids with Down syndrome have really severe medical problems. A lot of them have heart issues, which you can see in the diagram of the child, that a lot of them have issues with other health problems. They obviously, the mental retardation is one of the main things, so they're really delayed in their school, and a lot of them can't attend school. And also they tend to have lots of heart diseases, so a lot of them have to have open heart surgery before the age of 4. And so these are some photos of kids who have Down syndrome. And so, well, first of all, I'll tell stories because I know storytelling. So this little girl, her name's Amy, and this is my aunt's neighbor. She lives in England, and she's 6 years old, and she was born with Down syndrome. And so she's supposed to be in 1st grade, but because she has Down syndrome, she goes to a special school, in which instead of focusing on teaching her like the normal stuff like multiplication, addition, subtraction, grammar, she learns how to do things for herself, such as brush her teeth, feed herself. And it's not because she's not smart enough, it's because she has this disease that she can't process everything, okay? And this little boy, his name's Alan, and this is a son of my mom's colleague, and he's actually 8 years old. He's really small for his age. And one of the other things is with Down syndrome that you tend to grow at a smaller rate than normal, so he's really small for his age. And he wanted me to tell you guys that his favorite thing to do is to play with his dog. So, I don't know. And then this little boy is Josh, and that's my neighbor's kid, and that's actually him when he was younger, because you'll see a photo of him in a sec when he's older now. And I was talking to them about some of the issues, and they said one of the hardest things is the fact that you have to go to the doctor so often, and you have to go through so much therapy to try to keep them on track. And so their parents were telling me all the different procedures he's had on his heart to try to stay healthy, and it's really hard for him now to even do sports because of the fact that they're always worried about his heart and the condition. And he's so behind in school that his parents want him to attend a regular school, and now he's 8 years old, but he's just entering preschool because he's so far behind because of this disease. And the last little boy down here is named Tim, and this is my dad's friend's cousin, and he was born with Down syndrome, and he actually, when his mom got a test when she was pregnant, she had a 50% chance of her child being born with Down syndrome, which is extremely high. And so they made the decision, as he was their 4th child and the rest were older, and she was 45 years old having a kid, which is pretty late age to be having a child, that they were going to keep him. And so he has been...
How old was he? How old is she?
45. It's pretty late to have a kid. Okay, I thought you were going to ask me a question. And so they decided to keep him, and so now he in that photo was 4 years old, and instead of really focusing, instead of being really good in school, he's really good at noticing other things around him. So because a lot of them are mentally retarded, they tend to have really good other senses, so he's extremely good at hearing, and he's really good at the music. Like, he's not good at school, but he's an amazing piano player, and it's outstanding the things he can do in the arts. And so another thing I think we need to look at is the rise of attention to Down